couple of years ago, while I was at the seminary at Huntington, it was typical in about March or April for the long-awaited pastoral year assignments to be announced, when the seminarians would go to a parish and spend a year in a parish to get more ready for priesthood that way, a little bit away from the books and the studies, and more with the people, more with the experience. Well, that assignment did not come in March or April. And by May 12th, which was pretty much the last week of classes, and we'd all pretty much almost forgotten about these assignments, figuring we'd just be called up over the summer, we got the surprise announcements. And they were announced at dinner. Before dinner, the dean came in, and he listed all of our assignments for us. When it was announced that I would be assigned to Our Lady Queen of Martyrs, there were some oohs and some ahs from the other seminarians, more so than for the other assignments. And a month later, when we first got to meet our pastoral year supervisors, Monsignor Finaro, due to his health, it was difficult for him to travel. He couldn't attend that night. But Father Passenant came out that night. And that night, I learned something a little bit about this parish. First of all, I saw the bulletin. The bulletin of this parish is amazing. I think most people would agree with that. It's an amazing bulletin. I think we as a parish, this parish takes pride in its bulletin. When I first went online, I should say I saw the bulletin before that night, because one of the first things you do for any clergy, I'll tell you, for deacons or priests, usually you get an assignment to a parish, one of the first things you're doing is you're going to your room, closing the door, and you are going online and you are checking out that parish's website. Almost stalking the parish. I don't really want to use that word. So when I went on to our parish's website and I looked for the most recent bulletin, I had no idea what was going on, because I opened one file and the pages were skipping around. I was like 1, 2, and then 6, 7, and I'm like, is there something wrong here? And then I realized, in order to read this parish's bulletin, you need to open more than one file. And everybody who heard that thought that was quite interesting. But it is a testament to the vibrancy of this parish, a vibrancy I've always respected in this parish. So when I first came here, I spent 9 months here, as many of you well know. We had a lot of situations. I did not know what was coming. I was not expecting the level of vibrancy that I was exposed to. Father Passenant that night, when he came out to the seminary to greet me, he was the only one there with a huge stack of papers. And in that huge stack of papers, what I saw, I could not believe. Now, he had information about the parish expo for that year, the recent parish expo. I believe it had just passed when he came out that evening. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. We have so many programs, so many things to do around the parish. And then I see a footnoted diagram of how to navigate the parish expo. Almost as if we were going on the subway, and I needed to figure out if I needed fare for this ride. And then, as if that wasn't enough, there is a recommended walking path to go through the expo. I wasn't sure if I was ready to get involved with this. I might not be able to survive the expo, let alone 9 months. But finally, when I came here, got settled down, and began to go through the life of a parish and all of its situations, the sick and the elderly, the young, the newborn, baptisms, the sacraments, and just get involved to the extent that I could as a layperson with these things. Found myself in a lot of situations. And Father Passenant was always there to make sure, A, that I wasn't getting into too much trouble, at least nothing I would really regret later on. But also, he would never pass up the opportunity to ask me some challenging questions. So, if you're in this position, or maybe you already are in this position, well, what are you going to do? Someone comes to you in confession and says this, well, what are you going to say back to them? You're going to be there. You're not going to have the books available to you. You're not going to have the internet available to you to do searches with. What are you going to say? What are you going to do when you are in that pinch? There are some questions you can postpone until later, Maybe if someone asks me, what does the church teach about X, or what does the church teach about Y? Maybe it's not at the it's not at the front of my mind. Well, I can just say, I'll get back to you in a day. Let me just go check it out for you and just make sure I'm saying the right thing. But there are times you can't do that. There are times when people want your attention and they need answers right away. And you have to be there for them. In today's gospel, Jesus asks two types of questions. First, he asks the question, who do others say that I am? Now that's a question that doesn't really need an answer right away. That's a question that you can just feel free to say to Jesus, well, hold on, I'll get back to you. Let me check with what other people are saying about you and who they say you are. Let me do that, and I'll get back to you. Not exactly a pressing or an urgent question. But then he asks the question that you can't delay. He asks the question that you can't postpone. He asks, who do you say that I am? And no matter how much information or research you track down, you are not going to be able to more fully answer that question than you would be at the present moment. You're bringing yourself to this dialogue with Jesus, and you need to have some kind of an answer. And you know the answer because you're the one saying the answer. No one else is going to tell you who you say Jesus is. You're the only one who's going to be able to say that. It's a question that cannot be postponed and not delayed. So, in most homilies I was taught in the seminary, always have a lived question. Have a question available for your people that they might be bringing to church and that you might be able to give some kind of answer to. I don't need to do that today. The question is already presented. Who do you say that I am? The question requires an answer. Yesterday, at St. Joseph's Co-Cathedral, 13 men were ordained priests, myself being one of them. And there are so many moving moments in that ritual. It was quite a long ritual, about 2.5 hours. As a matter of fact, when I came into the sacristy just now to prepare for Mass, Father Passenant, who was at the ordination yesterday, he, knowing that I had to go through the ordination, which is a little harder than sitting through it because you're kneeling a lot of the time, and then I had a first Mass last evening, and I went to Our Lady of Mercy for Mass this morning, he asked, well, I don't know, he says to me, how you are still standing. But Father Passenant, I went through 9 months here at Queen of Martyrs. I have been trained. One of the components of the ordination, however, is an interrogation of some kind. Questions were asked of us. Questions of resolution. Not so much a prediction of what is going to happen. It's not that the bishop is asking us, are you definitely going to do these things for the rest of your life? Are you never going to slip up? That's not exactly what he's asking. His question is, do you resolve this? Do you resolve that? 5 promises were made. And they're promises of resolution. Obviously, there's always a chance we could slip up. Hopefully never in a scandalous or a terrible way. Maybe hopefully only in minor and small ways. But nevertheless, those are questions of resolution. Now, a prediction of the future may be a question that you simply don't know and you may wish to put off. But a question of resolution, that applies right now. Yesterday, when I said I do in response to those promises, that was a statement of resolution. I didn't have to do research or search the web for that. That only I could know at that moment, and only those 13 men who answered could have known. There are 5 promises. One was to discharge the office of priesthood as worthy workers with the order of bishops, to work with your bishop, to be obedient to him. Another, to exercise the ministry of the word worthily and wisely, to make sure that even though I'm very excited to be here at Queen of Martyrs from this beautiful amble, that I don't say the wrong thing and that I don't get carried away with myself. So I promise that. The promise to celebrate faithfully and reverently the mysteries of Christ handed down by the Church in the Eucharist and in confessions. I've already said Mass, I've already heard confessions. Both are beautiful experiences, and I promise to always be available for those. The promise to implore God's mercy upon the people entrusted to our care by observing the command to pray without ceasing, that I'm always have an attitude of prayer, and that attitude of prayer translates into a spirit of availability. And finally, the one where we have to say more than I do. We say I do with the help of God, because it's almost impossible without his help. The promise to be united more closely every day to Christ the High Priest, who offered himself for us to the Father as a pure sacrifice, to consecrate ourselves to God for the salvation of all. That means that every single day we are expected to be holier and better than the day before. Every single day. No breaks. Even if we go on vacation and relax, still we will become holier every day, every successive day. Those are the promises of resolution we made at the ordination yesterday. But they all add up to a single answer. Our I do's in response to the questions asked for the bishop, they all add up to a single answer. The ordination class of 2014 in the Diocese of Brooklyn has an answer for that question, who do you say that I am? The answer was given quite clearly and quite dramatically in all of the parts of the ordination ritual that took place yesterday. The response is Jesus, among many other things. You are the almighty answer. Today, we celebrate the solemnity of Saints Peter and Paul. Peter, the answer that he gave in today's gospel, you are the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus comments right away, Peter did not get that answer on his own. Now, he didn't have to do research to get it, but he didn't necessarily get it only on his own. He got it from above. Pray that the church throughout the world may always take her direction from her divine bridegroom, Jesus. And pray for me that throughout my priesthood, I may always direct my thoughts, feelings, and desires toward the heavenly will that created us and sustains us. And don't be afraid to depend on the Lord above for answers. Without Him, we would not even have the questions. Behold the Lamb of God. Behold him who takes away the sins of the world. Blessed are those called to the supper of the Lamb. Lord, I am not worthy to enter but only say the word, my soul shall be saved.
After this Mass, Father Jeremy will be in the Mary Garden for first blessing, so if you wish to greet him and avail yourselves of that opportunity, please do so. Now, as we say in Brooklyn, I have last licks. Don't die there, Jeremy. But we are so grateful that the things that we spoke to you about that I thought was hitting the wall behind you did inculcate in your heart. And so we're grateful that you remembered the many things of years of wisdom. Let me say this. I didn't mind the attitude you had, because when I was a young priest, my first pastor sat me down to give me, I thought he was nuts. But as the years went on, I realized the wisdom that he gave me in those meetings that we had when I was newly ordained, I could never find in a textbook, and I could never find online. We didn't have online then, but you can never learn these things in class, only by experience. And so I'm so happy that you took the pearls of the little bit of our pearls for your experience, and please put them, because they'll get you far. Two things I'd like to comment on. First, when you were discussing about the bulletin, I was so happy when you said our parish, because you are always part of our parish. And it's no secret, because it was the only one that Bishop DiMarzio mentioned yesterday, but Jeremy is going along the other priests, but he only mentioned them by name, but he only said to Jeremy what parish he was going to, and Jeremy is going to go as an associate, as a parochial vicar at Our Lady of the Snows in Floral Park. So you're on the other side of Queens, but certainly it's quick here to the Grand Central. And certainly when we were preparing in the sacristy, you said to me, you know, I'm not sure about this tab for the communion rank. And when I went to turn the tab, just for a moment, I felt Monsignor Finaro next to me. Because, as you know, I did that for him so many times. So he's here in spirit, and as your supervisor, I hope you took to heart, which you have, the many directions that he tried to and gave you as, again, a guy who really, you know, books were secondary. The street smarts were what got him through. And it's to be the same thing that will help you. The books are important, but it's that common sense that we try to give you, and hopefully that you've learned from us during your pastoral time. So certainly, Jeremy, as our parish continues to pray for vocations, as you know, we're getting ready for the John Vianney Novena at the end of this month into next month. We'll have the seminarians out. Jeremy's class was on the list the longest because we started it about 6 or 7 years ago, and you guys would have been in Cathedral when we started. So our prayers have an effect. They're worth it. They bear fruit. So we should never give up. So as we continue on our prayers for vocation, one of the things again that we need to really pray for and actualize is a vocation from among the men of our parish. And that is something that I think I will consider incomplete work until God blesses us with that gift. But